After 3 seasons as the hitting coach for the LA Dodgers, Mark McGwire's now been named the bench coach for the division rival Padres. Matt Waymire joined on the phone by Corey Brock, MLB.com Padres reporter. Corey, thank you for the time. Now, it's obviously a great role for McGwire, but was there any consideration to putting him in the hitting coach role that he had served in for the past 6 years with both the Dodgers and the Cardinals?
You know, Matt, I think maybe some, but the Padres last month made a move to hire Alan Zinter as their hitting coach, and so they filled that position fairly early on. Zinter was the assistant hitting coach with the Astros, and even though McGwire, his pedigree and his recent experience was, hitting coach of the Cardinals and the Dodgers, I think he was maybe looking for, a chance to sort of move up the coaching ranks or maybe expand his resume a little bit. And that's not to say he didn't like his job as a hitting coach. I think that was a good fit for him in both cities. I just think it was a chance for him to take that natural progression as a coach as he sort of works his way up. And who knows, maybe this guy's a big league manager someday.
Now, Corey, how much can Mark McGwire's knowledge of the LA Dodgers pay dividends when the Dodgers and Padres lock horns 19 times head-to-head next season?
Yeah, that's funny. This isn't like the NFL where they make you turn that playbook on cut day, so you don't give away any secrets. I have to think there's probably some of that's going to be helpful. But, the big thing that really resonated with new Padre manager Andy Green was in his conversations with Mark McGwire going through this process was his voice was kind of dripping with passion talking about not just hitting, but really relationships. And Andy Green is a big relationship guy, and certainly as a bench coach and a hitting coach, you have to be able to, strike a chord with a lot of different guys from a lot of different backgrounds. And I think there were some things that really resonated with Andy Green during Mark McGwire's interviews with the team that led them down the path that, hey, this is going to be the guy for us. Because if you think about it, Andy Green is a first-year manager. Maybe some initial thought that they might want to surround him with someone who has a little bit more experience in the dugout, maybe even someone who had been a big league manager before.
And Corey, sticking with Andy Green, was there any sort of pre-existing relationship between himself and Mark McGwire that helped McGwire get this position?
Yeah, really not, which is kind of funny because, baseball kind of, guys kind of run in circles and, we played together years ago, like Andy Green and Alan Zinter played together with the D-backs years ago. But, in talking with Andy Green, one real strong common denominator, and that's Tony La Russa, certainly with Mark McGwire's time in St. Louis with La Russa, and then Andy Green having just come over from the D-backs, where he obviously had a chance to work with Tony La Russa as well. And a really interesting comment, Matt, from Mark McGwire today. He said that, in his meetings with Andy Green, he says he could see a lot of Tony La Russa and Andy Green, which I thought was really high praise for a guy who hasn't even managed a single game.
All right, welcome back to Padres Social Hour. Early December, and not quiet around Padre land. We've had all kinds of announcements, trades, transactions, and now a coaching staff hired yesterday, including a new bench coach, and he's with us, Mark McGwire.
Yes.
Hi.
How you doing?
Welcome.
Thanks.
Are you excited for this? This is a new step for you, a hitting coach the last few years.
Yeah, love challenging myself. I love this game.
Why are you coaching?
I love it. You want to coach because you want to give back what you learned, and it's the knowledge that I've collected over my 20 some odd years that I've been in this game or more. It's just I just want to pass it on. I've been through the ups and the downs, and probably more downs than ups, and that's who you are as a person. And you learn to be the person you are by busting through failures and the walls, adversity, whatever you want to say. And boy, I've been through that, but I've also been on top of the game. And this game's all built on failure, unfortunately.
Sure.
And it's how do these young kids get through this? And so when I got back in, when my second father, Tony La Russa, got me back in 2010, I had to learn how to coach, though. You think a former player, you can just jump in and start coaching. It's not an easy task to do. So I had to learn how to coach, and I've never ruled out moving up in the game of baseball as a coach, and came down here for an interview, and next thing you know, the second interview went really well, and offered me a coaching bench coach job.
So here we are. I heard you say earlier you didn't really know Andy Green before this process, but you know somebody who knows Andy Green pretty well, and the guy you just mentioned, Tony La Russa. I imagine you talked to Tony about this.
I did. Yeah, absolutely.
What was his take on Andy Green? What's your take on Andy Green here?
Well, knowing Tony like I know Tony, and knowing how Tony started off managing at a very young age, and Andy's very young. Andy's had several very successful seasons as a minor league manager, and then being engaged in the few times that I've been with Andy, I see Tony in him. And as soon as everybody around San Diego and the media and fans start seeing these interviews and understanding the way he runs the ball game, you're going to see a little bit of Tony La Russa. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, I get offered this job to be right next to him. And how could I not pass it? I can't pass it up.
That's pretty cool. All right, before we get too serious, I've been wondering this all day as I've been getting ready to do this. Big Mac. Are we okay with that? Like, if we refer to you that way, or are you over? You don't
Whatever.
care. Okay.
Whatever.
I just, you don't want to be on radio or TV and refer to you and have it be something that like you're not into. So I just wanted to check if we're still okay with that.
I've had a lot of nicknames throughout my life, so it doesn't matter. Nothing. You know what? I let things just go right.
You're not worried about
it?
No,
not at all.
Well, that's healthy, I think. What's something about Mark McGwire that probably most people don't realize, don't know? We know a lot about you. You've been in the public eye for so long, going back to college and the Olympics, and obviously as a major leaguer. What don't we know about Mark McGwire?
It's a great question. Well, it's all about what I want to tell you guys.
Fair enough.
I love my family. I love, it was one of the reasons that I retired and after 2001 is I could have continued to play. I had a 2-year deal on the table with the Cardinals, and I got tired of being injured and tired of rehab, and I met my beautiful wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, and wanted to start another family. So, I have five young children right now, and my older son Matt's 28, and Max and Mason are 13 and almost 12, and then I have triplet girls that are 5.5. So
you're busy, is what you're telling
me. I'm busy, but I love my family. I just love being around them, but I love being around the game, and my family loves being around the game. So I just love being around family. I love just everything about it.
Speaking of family, your brother is still a pretty big deal in these parts from his Aztecs days.
Yeah.
Getting a lot of tweets about that.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
he's got some studly daughters. His
basketball,
one daughter,
right?
She's 6'4". She's up at Santa Clara. And his other daughter just signed a letter of intent to go to Oregon. She's 6'5". I mean, these are studs, and he's got a 13-year-old daughter that's probably going to be taller than them. So I'm waiting for my kids to be that tall. So
play some hoops.
Yeah.
In the news this week, Barry Bonds reportedly getting ready to join the Marlins to start his coaching career. Do you reach out to you? Because you've been doing this for a while now? Just curious.
No, it's surprisingly, because I know he's done some work up in the Giants.
Right.
And I never seen him up there, and all the times he'd come up there and play. But why not? Probably one of the greatest hitters ever played the game, smartest hitter. Pass it on. I mean, that's what this game's all about. Pass on the knowledge. And if it does happen, if it comes to fruition, and he's down there in Miami, good for them, good for baseball.
Yeah, no, I mean, it goes back to that question I asked you earlier, why coach? I think for a lot of us as fans, you see guys who did it better than anyone who's ever done it, getting into that and working their way up the ladder and doing these different stops, and it's an interesting thing. It really is. And you say you want to pass it on, you want to give it back. That's incredible. But it's really an interesting thing to watch, I think, from the outside.
Well, I mean, they've always said that players that have had a lot of success in the major leagues don't make good coaches.
Right. That's the cliche about all sports.
But that I don't understand. But it's about relationships. You just that's one thing that I learned back in 2010. You just can't come in and say, "Hey, this is XYZ." Not that I did that, but it's just like you have to learn who that person is. You have to let them start talking. You got to let them tell them about themselves and what makes them tick. there's a learning curve there.
As far as coaching philosophy goes, I heard you say something earlier like that caught my attention. As a coach, the main thing you want to do is get them talking, get the players talking, much more so than you doing the talking.
Right, and then you play off that because I've done my study. I know what I want to talk to them about. Some days they just don't want to talk, and you have to read their body language. And sometimes the best coaching is when you just put the ball on the tee or you just don't say anything at all. And I don't know, next thing you know, maybe you're talking about their family or something. And then next thing you know, they're starting to talk about their at-bats from last night. And you're like, oh, wow, here we go. This is perfect. Then they're talking about their at-bats. I'm like, wow, that's exactly what I was going to talk to them about. And they're doing all the talking. And sometimes I think that's the best coaching.
There's a high school coach or a youth coach maybe watching right now, just taking some notes from Mark McGwire. They should be. All right, got some fan questions for you here. Let's start it off with Maddie. And he wants to know, spending a few years with the Dodgers now as their hitting coach, what was your take on the Padres? What were you looking at, from across the dugout on the other side, either at Chavez Ravine or here at Petco?
That's a great question. I was asked that earlier today. You know what? Not that I didn't really watch them and critique them. It's just they had a nice offense, and obviously it didn't click, it didn't work. Last year, unfortunately, didn't get as many wins as they wanted to. But I didn't really to answer it properly. I can't really say because I was more entrenched in what I was doing as a coach for the Dodgers. That's
reasonable. Brent wants to know if you can still hit one on top of the Western Metal Building here.
I would love to. Sometimes I'm so sad to think that I didn't get a chance to play here, man. I mean, I love Qualcomm too. So. Yeah. In Qualcomm in '92 was the only time I won the home run derby, and I loved it there. So, and this year they're having the All-Star game back here.
That's a nice completion of the circle right there. But I mean, like if we went out there and I threw you some BP, you could probably hit one up here, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if my back can do with it.
All right, that's fair. What do you think about this Padre roster? That's kind of part of his question. Also, as you just now start looking at it as a coach, you were hitting coach in LA, you're hitting coach in St. Louis, now a bench coach. I imagine you'll still be involved in working with the hitters.
Well, I mean, if Alan asks for help, I'm all there. That's one thing that Andy wanted to do to get the coaching staff together, not have any barriers. I mean, you can't feel if a coach comes up to you and asks you something about hitting or pitching or whatever, defense, you can't feel offended about this. This is we have to have an open mind, open communication about everything. That's how you get better. Because we don't know it all. We like to think that we do, but hey, maybe somebody else might be saying it a different way. We're all saying the same things, and sometimes it clicks easier.
All right, very cool. Last one's a fun one. You just mentioned the home run derby, winning in '92 at the Q. Kevin wants to know, what did you like coming to San Diego as a player? What was your favorite, parts of stopping over here?
Well, first of all, the weather. I mean, Southern California kid. I've been here, born and raised up there in Pomona Valley. I've been living in Orange County for over 30 years. San Diego is just awesome city. Qualcomm, just love Qualcomm, love the palm trees. There's nothing not to like about San Diego. And now this beautiful stadium here downtown, right off the water, and the video board they put up last year.
Pretty serious.
The music they're playing just absolutely rocks.
Okay, make sure we send that clip to Wayne. We got that. Mark McGwire, bench coach, San Diego Padres. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome, and thanks for your time, man.
Well, Padres fans happy to have him back in camp. The return of Mark McGwire this week. After taking some time off to tend to some family matters back at home, Big Mac makes his return here in Major League Camp. And here's what he had to say before the game about coming back.
It's just really good to put the uniform back on, get out here to get to know everybody, and got some catching up to do and to watch games. I've been watching games on the internet, and then I've been watching games, the few games that have been on television. So, but it's nothing like being in the dugout, watching them, being in the cage, and coming around and watching how Tarek's working everybody bunting today, and so got some catching up to do, but got time before the season starts.
Before the game, I had a little chat with Mark McGwire, and he said that first order of business is really to learn the guys and especially learn who Andy Green is and learn how he's going to manage this club. He says he always loves learning about the game, and there's always more to learn. He loves this game, and that's the truth.
Hey, Mike Janella here at Padres Spring Training. Today, a big return. Big Mac. Mark McGwire, the bench coach, is back in camp after leaving just one day into spring training. Here's what he had to say.
It's just really good to put the uniform back on, get out here to get to know everybody, and got some catching up to do and to watch games. I've been watching games on the internet, and then I've been watching games, the few games that have been on television. So, but it's nothing like being in the dugout, watching them, being in the cage, and coming around and watching how Tarek's working everywhere, bunting today, and so got some catching up to do, but got time before the season starts.
After McGwire himself, the person happiest for him to be back, probably manager Andy Green. Here's what Andy had to say about getting his right-hand man back in Peoria.
We're thrilled to have him. I think from an offensive game plan perspective, he's going to be huge. And then for me as a sounding board, that's we hired him because we wanted him here. We wanted his opinion. We wanted his influence. So we're grateful that he's finally back.
For the most part, for the few games that have been on television, yes. On the internet, it's amazing, the internet, and what you can watch things, and you sort of, being that I've been there, you sort of envision how this pitcher's trying to pitch to our hitters and how our pitchers are trying to pitch to their hitters, and unfortunately you can't see all the plays, you just see them when they type it in there. So but yeah, I'm pretty much caught up with everybody. It's just being here and watching it in person is so different. So we got a few weeks left before camp. And for the beginning of the season, I think it's 3 weeks from today. I think something close to that, right? So watching on television and then them being here, we see the same things. So there's things that they've been working on. So, yeah, there's a lot of good things. I know offensively haven't been the best, but guys are trying to find the feeling. And that's what spring training is all about. Try to find that feeling, hold on to that feeling, and go right into April. To pass on the knowledge that what I went through as an offensive player, just as a baseball player. I mean, I love playing defense, and to get back in here and to try to help out Will learning first base. You know, I took first base very seriously, and one of the greatest prizes I've ever gotten was a Gold Glove. And so it's, I'm not a fan of the DH. I think if you can't wear a glove, you shouldn't be playing the game of baseball. That's what baseball is all about. The National League is what the baseball game is all about. Unfortunately, probably someday there's probably have 2 DHs, but we'll just wait until that happens, but I hope not. But it's just, I just love this game. It's in my blood. And you get into coaching to pass on the knowledge that you've learned through your coaches that you've had and what you've gone through as a player. And Andy do his work. I mean, it's very, very cool. It's very intelligent. Just listen to him on the bench, and it's really it's nice, but it's we got half our team, we got a bunch of minor league kids, and get to see a chance to see those guys play and give our few starters. I'm gonna go pretty long today and see Tyson and Brandon Morrow throw today, so yeah, should be good. And we face a good one in Hamill, so.
Down the road, I mean, is the opportunity to present itself something that you would be interested in?
I've never ruled it out, but it's just this when I had the opportunity to come and be Andy's bench coach, it's just it's a fantastic opportunity. I love challenges, and there's nothing better than challenging yourself, especially in the game of baseball. I did it as a player. Now I'm doing it as a coach. So, it's you just have to know your personnel. You have to check in with them every day. You have to know the opposition real well. So it's just really, it's a lot of baseball sense, and so here we go.
The job of a bench coach has probably changed a little bit, evolved a little bit over the last maybe 20, 30 years, become more visible. How do you see it? How do you see your role now, especially with a guy who's never managed in the majors before? And Andy obviously has managed.
Well, I don't think, with Andy, he's been very successful in the minor leagues. He knows how to manage, believe me. He's very, very good at putting guys in certain positions when he makes changes. Just down here watching him for the 10 days that I've been watching him since I've been back. It's just talking to my friends that know him. He's intelligent. He knows the game. He knows defense. He knows the opposition. So it's I'm the eyes and ears and try to help him, because the game does speed up. It speeds up 7, 8, 9 innings. It's just, that's the way it is. And things can happen in a heartbeat. Just when you think you might have a big lead, it could be chipped down to 3, and next thing you know, you're thinking about bringing in your closer. Where you an inning or two earlier, you were thinking, oh, you can give the closer a day off. Or vice versa. You're thinking, hey, we're chipping away, and next thing you know, we're going to bring in their closer, and we're going to force the issue. So there's just a lot of things you have to watch and understand. And Andy and I are still learning each other, just like all our coaches. So it's you just have to really know your personnel.
Seems like Andy kind of has. Andy's philosophy regarding the coaching staff. Everyone has their set role, but it's a collaborative effort. It's whoever can help any given player at any given time. And do you like that kind of philosophy?
Yeah, I think that's chip in? It's the way it is, because there's 2 eyes can't see everything, and if you have 4 eyes or 6 eyes or even 8 eyes, we're all speaking the same thing. We're just speaking different words, and different words mean different things to different people. And light bulbs might go off in a player somewhere just by another coach saying something in the same way that the other coach was saying that he couldn't get. So, I love what Andy's done here, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun build.
When you got back into the game with St. Louis as a hitting coach, how different is that view from the dugout?
It's very different. Very different. Yeah, it's very different. Growing up with Tony as my first manager, and had Art Howe as my second manager, but then going back to Tony. And when I'm as a player sitting in the corner of the dugout, didn't really follow what Tony was doing. I was more concerned about what I can do and what I'm going to do to that pitcher. And then when I got into the dugout in 2010 and stand behind him, I was like, wow, it's just like it's to think about all the stuff that what's the right word? I'm trying to think of the right word. Just the stuff that you learn as a player, and you try to help out other players as a coach, learning what Tony has done, having talks with him, how he runs the ball game. It's way different than as a player.
What's the communication going to be like between you and Andy from this weekend? Is it just a big data dump on Monday, or will you be talking every day?
That's a great question. He's down in Mexico and his phone's on. So if we talk, we talk. It's they'll be back in a couple days. So I think things are all good. So.
What do you think of Will Myers' adjustment at first base so far? Now that you're here and seeing it up and close and in person.
I think he's come a long ways. Just talking to Hoffy and Eddie, the work he's put in, still a work in progress. Still understanding where to be, where to go. It's going to be. He's learning on the job. He really likes it. He's asking a lot of questions. And when you're dealing with an athlete like that, I don't think it's going to be a hard transition.
Is the speed? Obviously it's a spring training game, but the speed of the game as a manager, is that something that you're kind of looking forward to getting a gauge on, just to see what it's like to kind of sit in those shoes and feel? Because you already kind of have a bench coach. But.
Well, we'll see. Spring training games are obviously way different than a real season game. So, we'll just have to wait and see. Just seeing it as a coach and seeing how it speeds up, sitting behind and watching, Tony work, Mike Matheny work, and watching Donnie work for the last 6 years. It's definitely, the game does speed up. So I'll get to see it right there up front as a bench coach, and just pick and watch how Andy works.
We're back to Padres Social Hour, broadcasting from the Peoria Sports Complex at San Diego Padres Spring Training.
Welcome back to Padres Social Hour. Now, when I was hired this offseason for this job, there were a couple tweets, a blog posts here and there about it. When this guy was hired, San Diego Padres bench coach Mark McGwire, a little bit bigger of a splash. Yeah. Does that sound weird to you? Bench coach still? You're used to it?
I like it. It's great. It's a great challenge. Always trying to improve in the game, and as a player and now as a coach. And, I'm still going to have a little bit a thumb on the hitting a little bit, help out the Z-Man. But, to learn and to advance in this game, and I got an opportunity to come down here and work with Andy, I couldn't resist.
I mean, is it exciting for you? A little bit of nervousness working with these new guys and taking this new step in your journey?
Always that. There's always that nervousness. It just tells you how much you love the game. Never take it for granted. There's the newness of learning everybody's name.
I've been going through the same thing, right. You and I both.
Watching guys from afar in the other dugout, but getting to see them and know them personally, that's what really, a coach is all about. You have to know your personnel, and especially a bench coach, because basically I'm the ears and eyes for Andy, and knowing these guys and knowing how they feel and talking to our coaching staff and have a nice little game plan before the game.
Give me some specifics, because obviously a bench coach, Andy has said himself, you're his eyes and ears where he can't be. What's an example of something you've done early in a spring game maybe that you caught that maybe he didn't?
Well, I mean, to be quite honest, we really haven't run a game yet because there's too many moving parts right now. I think as we get into the final week and we get into San Diego when we play the White Sox is when you're going to really start seeing moving, working a game. But really having a pulse on what's our bench like, having a pulse on how our bullpen's doing, who's hot, who's not, who needs to be rested. It's such a long season, and you got to pace yourself. And you might want to go to that bullpen early in the season, but then it's gonna bite you in the long run towards the end of the season.
You were away from camp for a few weeks, tending to your ill wife. How's she doing, by the way?
She's doing a lot better. It's just a slow process. It's just very unfortunate what happened. Having 5 young kids and going home, and have a wonderful mother-in-law that's out there taking care of everything. My mother lives in the area. She comes over and helps out too. But it's just it's sort of eye-opening when you have some kind of a health problem dealing with somebody close to you, as my wife. And we're working through it. Kids are great, but family and the Padres are fantastic with that. I was gone pretty much 24 days. So.
Yeah, you talk about building relationships and family, and while you were away, that's all Andy Green kept saying. Family comes first. Family comes first. That must have been cool, knowing they had your back.
It was, and when I talked to him pretty much almost every day, and the slow process of healing, it's pretty much how's she doing? She's improving, but it's very slowly, and so she's moving around a lot better now, but she still hasn't been able to get outside and to get in a car and to do that stuff. So, but good things. Everybody heals from what she's had, so everybody heals. So good things are going to come.
That's great. And you have the 5 children you're raising. 3 of them are triplet girls, 5 years old, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: home run king and most feared hitter of all time, one of Mark McGwire. How many times have you seen Frozen?
I've seen bits and pieces.
Never front to end?
No.
So
that's more or less. That's my wife's. That's my wife's area. Watching that stuff.
All right, so I won't ask you for your favorite song. Then we'll save that for next offseason, maybe. What relationships with the players too, because that's what you say. I've heard you in some interviews talk about. That's the most important thing of coaching. Is there any special way to do that besides just spending time with the guys around the cage or on the bench?
Just talking, communicating. I think that's a lost art in sports today is the communication. You have to be up front with them. And Andy's been so up front with everybody. He went across the country to meet pretty much everybody. He's set these guidelines. He's the guidelines to hold everybody accountable for what they've said to him. And then get to know. You really don't know somebody's true personality until adversity. And we're going to have some adversity throughout the season. Everybody does. So that's the true character of a ball club is when you overcome that adversity. But you go back to it, it's all about knowing that person and knowing how to really try to make an 0 for 4 instead of an 0 for 25, and a pitcher having a rough time to turn back that next start or that next bullpen outing. But it's just how do you get to these guys, and it's all about getting to know them.
Something Andy did, you mentioned going cross-country in the off-season. He gets sushi with Derek Norris, or he's visiting Will Myers in Charlotte. Is that anything you have time for during the season? Let's go bowling, or let's go hit some golf balls or something to build that extra bond with guys?
Well, if it happens, yeah. If they want to do that, absolutely. I mean, it's most winning teams do that. Been on quite a few winning teams, and Winning teams, everybody comes together. You talk about that clubhouse, and you talk about leadership. We have them in there. Now it's a matter of them gelling together, getting together, and winning really solves a lot of problems. But like I said earlier, when you lose, that's a true test of what kind of character this ball club has. You might lose a couple, but how do you keep that couple from a couple instead of going to a 10-game losing streak? So it's all about the character in the clubhouse.
Some of those winning teams you mentioned, Tony La Russa had a hand in a lot of them. You've said on record before, Andy reminds you of sort of a young
Very
Tony.
much so, yes.
In what ways?
Well, just talking to Tony, talking to players. I've had some friends that know Andy, that know how he runs a ball game. He's very intelligent. Very intelligent. And
valedictorian of his high school class.
Well, I can see that. Great speaker, great communicator, like I said earlier. And the thing is yes, he hasn't done it at this level, but when you talk to Tony and Tony says this guy's special and this guy's going to be a winning manager someday, that to me, like Tony's my second father, that goes a long ways. And it was one of those huge things when I had an opportunity to interview with Andy and talking to Tony about him, and he speaks that highly of him. Padres should be very happy they have a man in Andy Green.
Yeah, Tony La Russa's won a couple of games. He's been around a few years, so I think he's someone who knows what he's talking about.
Yes, he does.
One thing for you from the coaching perspective that I think would be difficult, but maybe it's not for you, when you have the talent that you had and the skills you had, transferring that to a new generation, being able to articulate maybe something that came naturally to you, is that tough as a coach, or does that come easy for you?
Well, it's yes and no. I mean, I had to learn how to coach. And that's one thing when Tony got me back in the game in 2010. You go in there and you sort of think that you can just start talking, but it's more or less you have to start watching and observing and to get to know the guy. And everybody's different, and the way you go about to talk to them. And one thing I've learned about coaching, sometimes the best thing is to say nothing at all. You let them speak. And there's always a time and a place for it. And it's amazing when you get these players to start speaking, they're talking about the things that you wanted to talk to them about. And so that just starts the dialogue. And once you start the dialogue, you're accomplishing something. And but you get into coaching to pass on knowledge. And I've been through so much in this game, and I just love passing on knowledge. I love seeing young kids learning things earlier than when I learned them, and to see the talent and go, gosh, if I didn't really start learning this game until 6 years in the big leagues. You haven't even had 1 year in the big leagues. Can you imagine where you're going to be after 6 years in the big leagues? So I love coaching. So I love this game.
Talk about some of the guys specifically that you have been able to coach and work with, some of these young guys. Matt Kemp, obviously a seasoned veteran, but a Will Myers who's still young, or a Jabari Blash. How do you see this team shaping up?
It's exciting. Everybody. We have this nice talent. We have a nice little nucleus of veterans. There's a lot to learn. A lot to learn in this game. And again, it's that pulse of really get to know these guys, and for them to understand that it is okay if a pitcher gets you out. Guys paid a lot of money to get you out. Let's go back and see how he got you out. How'd you get you out? Well, you swung at pitches you weren't capable of hitting. Or you know what? That guy's getting paid $15 million. He's supposed to get me out tonight. Let's just turn the page. Let's go to the next guy. To understand that this game is mental more than physical. These young kids today think it's more physical than mental. And so that these are things you have to pass on and learn. But these are things that Matt can pass on. John Jay is one of my favorites when I was over in St. Louis.
It must be nice seeing him.
Yeah, he's such a professional. I mean, the fans in San Diego are going to love him. It's just so even-keeled. He knows exactly what he needs to do. He's like the quarterback out there in center field, always moving the outfielders, moving side, whatever, in, out. So there's a very, very good nucleus. It's just a matter of just coming together.
one of the big news stories a couple weeks ago in spring was Barry Bonds beating Giancarlo Stanton in a home run derby at Marlins camp.
I saw that, yeah.
How would you do if we got you in the cage against some of these guys today?
That's a great question. I don't know if my body can do that.
Not even for one round of 10, maybe?
I've never done it. I've done it in the cage where I've hit off a tee or soft toss and stuff. But, it's not about me.
Yeah.
It's not about me. I didn't do this. It's about the team that I'm coaching, and here it is, the Padres. So for me to go out there and do that and have cameras, it's not me.
Which all the coaches and what Andy has said, because it's been basically an all-star team of coaches and advisors that are here, and he said it's you guys are, like you said, paying it forward, not here for yourselves, which is very cool to see.
That's exactly why. That's why I'm doing this. It's passing on the knowledge. I mean, it's just I want to see young, successful athletes, especially baseball players, do really, really well and not struggle. And if we can help them out that way, they're going to be such better ball players in the long run.
Should be a fun season. They've got a good one in camp with you here,
so
Mark.
much. Really
thank you for stopping by, and hopefully we'll talk to you the rest of the year as things go along.
Let's do it.
All right, Mark McGwire, thank you very much. We'll be back after this on Padres Social Hour.
The Padres are getting ready for the 2016 season, and we'll be right back to talk about it more from the Peoria Sports Complex in Arizona at Padres Spring Training.
Andy Green is with the Padres that are in Mexico managing them. Bench coach Mark McGwire has gotten the weekend promotion to manager here in Peoria. We caught up with him to see how that's going.
When I had the opportunity to come and be Andy's bench coach, it's just it's a fantastic opportunity. I love challenges. And there's nothing better than challenging yourself, especially in the game of baseball. I did it as a player. Now I'm doing it as a coach. So, it's you just have to know your personnel. You have to check in with them every day. You have to know the opposition real well.
Thanks so much, Mike. So, Mark, here we are. We're in the season. Yeah. You are the Padres bench coach. How did this all happen? How did this conversation go down to where you find yourself here?
Started with a phone call. I got a call from Andy and came down for an interview, and I guess the interview went well. And next thing you know, a day or two later, I think I was sitting with Andy and AJ. We were having a great dinner at Pelican Hill up in Newport Coast, and they offered me a job to be a bench coach. And I love this game so much. I've always loved to challenge myself like I did as a player. I've probably been a bench coach for the last 6 years as a hitting coach, because you sit back there and you think about things. Now I'm challenging myself. I love it. I love being next to Andy. He's one smart individual. Just love the detail. His attention to detail is something that I grew up with in Tony La Russa. I love it. The communication levels are off the charts, and it's something that I really, really like.
The game of baseball, as you sort of alluded to just there, means everything to you, means the world to you. So where would you be without baseball?
I'd be in law enforcement. Yeah, I told myself I'd give myself 5 years in the minor leagues. I love law enforcement. I love everything about it. I had some really good friends up in the Bay Area that do a lot of ride-alongs, so something in law enforcement, just something that always in the back of my head.
You've mentioned before that Tony La Russa was a huge part of your development. What does he mean to you?
Well, he's like a second father. I mean, he gave me my first shot in 87. I got a little cup of coffee in 86 with him when I got called up AAA Tacoma. 87, I was the last guy to make it out of spring training. I was a third baseman at the time. Played a little bit of outfield. So those utility guys that are really big now. And then my first game in 87 was at first base. And so, he stuck with me through thick and thin. My year in 1991, which was horrible. They stuck with me. I found out later they stuck with me because the year prior to that I won the Gold Glove, so they loved my defense. He's been a father figure to me, and I've learned so much coaching with him when he got me back in the game in 2010. I didn't really know he was that intense standing behind him because when I was a player I was at the other end of the dugout and kept to myself and what I wanted to do as a hitter defensive-wise. But when as a coach and listening to him, and wow. And then now I'm standing next to Andy, and they're alike.
Do you find yourself sort of drawing on what he was able to show you as a coach back then?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. There's things that stayed in my mind that I've passed on to Andy. And, of course, Andy was with Tony, not as a coach, but a coach with Arizona, but Tony was upstairs. But I know Andy picked his brain a lot. And I know Tony loved Andy, and the Diamondbacks hated for Andy to leave. And it's just wonderful. The Padres, they will find out in the near future how good he is as a manager. And just what we're doing right now with the team and the injuries we're having, the players that are playing right now, and how much we're getting out of them, it's pretty dang cool to watch.
So much has been made about making baseball fun again, and there have been a few integral players that are currently playing right now that have made this statement well known. And you've been involved in some very fun times for the game of baseball. So what do you remember about that as far as going back to 1984 for the exhibition game for the Olympics, all the way to 1998 with the home run race chasing Maris's number 61? What do you remember about those times?
Just a lot of great time. I've been honored. In '84 to play in the Olympic team. I know it was a demonstration sport, but which I probably think they should probably bring Olympics back into the Olympics, bring baseball back into the Olympics. Just had a great time, especially being in LA, growing up in Southern California, and to '98, just the home run race, and just it was a lot of fun, but it was definitely stressful. I went through it. I don't think anybody's gone through anything quite like that ever in the game of baseball. To overcome all what the expectations of the daily grind of 20 or 30,000 fans coming out for batting practice and then play a game. So it was a lot of. I look back, and maybe someday I'll write a book about it because of all the information I got in my head. But right now, there's no book coming.
What would you call that book? What would the name of the book be?
I don't know. I've been offered quite a few times to write a book, and I'm very hesitant. I like to keep things to myself and to my family. So I don't know. It'd be interesting because there's a lot of things that people don't know about me, but and especially don't know about the times that I went through. They know little bits and pieces, but those times that I can't. This game is so wonderful. It's given me so much, and I'm just so happy I'm on the field and doing the things I love to do.
How many things in your house have the number 70 on them? How many items?
Well, it's funny. I'm never much of putting stuff in my house, and until I retired, my wife said I had to get this stuff out of storage, and we did, and we put some stuff. There's a few things out, but it's more or less for my family to see, and when I have friends come over. I'm pretty proud of them because I've never much, even my mom and dad said I didn't, even when I got trophies and stuff when I was a youngster, I didn't really care for them. I just loved playing the game. It wasn't about the awards. It was about just playing and understanding what the man upstairs gave you, the great ability to play a wonderful sport like this. And so it wasn't about all that stuff. It was about just playing and really enjoying it.
All right, we're going to do a quick fire session here. So rapid fire questions. First thing that comes to your mind. I'm going to put a name or a phrase out there, and you just give me the first thing that comes to mind. All right, ready?
Okay.
Favorite ballpark to play in?
Well, my favorite ballpark playing doesn't exist anymore. It was Old Tiger Stadium. Loved it, and I was truly honored when they gave me a seat, number 25 seat, from the stadium when they took it apart. So it was the stadium that hit my very first Major League home run, and it was my home away from home.
During your playing days, toughest pitcher to hit?
Well, I don't consider any of them really being tough because I didn't consider that. There were some of that people that owned me. Obviously, Roger Clemens was very, very difficult to hit because of that high fastball, 95 or above, and I always seem to chase it. But Roger Clemens is off the top of my head.
Toughest pitcher currently that you see giving hitters fits?
It'd have to be Arrieta, just especially right-hander. Well, on both sides. I think right-handers actually have a better chance of hitting him just because of his 92-mile-an-hour slider cutter that goes into the left-hander's back foot and onto their hands. He is just so tough. Just in a year and a half, he's made this transition to being the top pitcher in the game. But a good friend of mine, Clayton Kershaw, is right behind him. I mean, he's right there too. But right now, Arrieta's right there.
Youth over experience or experience over youth?
Youth over experience. Wow, that's a tough question. Well, I take experience over youth. Just to me, I just go that way. It's just, even though youngsters have great talent, you're going to have experience someday, and there's nothing better than learning from somebody that's already had experience. So I take the experience over youth.
And last question, first thing that comes to mind, Bash Brothers.
Bash Brothers. Wow, great times. It's funny. We're here in Chicago, and when I look over in that dugout and I see what those guys are doing, it brings me back to the days of 88, 89, and 90. 3 consecutive World Series, and the teams that we had, the way that Sandy Alderson and the Haas family put the teams together, and Tony La Russa and the coaching staff, it was pretty much just throw the balls and bats out there and we'll just go play. And that's what the Cubs look like, and hopefully this weekend we'll have something to say about it.
Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it so much. I don't know that I've met anyone who loves the game of baseball more than this guy. Mike Pomerantz, back to you.
And Mark McGwire, the Padres bench coach, joins us here in the second. Mark.
Hello, guys.
Good to have you back.
Well, it's good to be back. Good to be on the baseball field watching games.
Everything's good now at home with your wife and kids?
Yeah, my wife's feeling a lot better. It's going to be a while before she gets back to 100%, but she's doing well. Got a great support system, and the Padres are great. Allowing me, I was gone about 23, 24 days, and need to be home, wanting to be here. You know, it's tough, and well, my wife's fighting, so it's all going to be good.
Your reaction to now sitting on the bench and working shoulder to shoulder with the new skipper Green?
I think it's going to be exciting. You know, I love challenges. It's definitely a challenge for me. Get out of the cage all the time and come here, and I love the game of baseball. Andy's brilliant. You know, I've said this, that he's a young Tony La Russa, you know, being around Tony for so many years and listen to Tony speak, and when he speaks, people listen, and that's what Andy's done here in the camp, and you know, what he did over there in Arizona with the defense and stuff. It's just going to be exciting to watch.
Mark, spent a lot of time with Tony La Russa in your playing career. How has that corresponded, or how has that correlated into you now being a bench coach? How much did you learn from the Hall of Fame manager?
What not to learn, man. He was awesome. So, I mean, he's just he knows how to run a ball game, and I mean, when you play and coach, obviously coaching, it's a little bit different aspect of looking at it. When you're playing, you're sort of thinking about what you can do offensively and out there defensively. But here, the bench coach, you got to watch everything and be the eyes and ears for Andy. Make sure that he understands that certain times later in the game we might have to think about pinch hitting, double switching. It's going to be exciting, so I'm looking forward to it.
Trevor Brown leading off this Giants second. The 24-year-old from UCLA has walked. This is Ramiro Pena. Last year at this time, he was in the Padre camp. Spent the entire year, Pena, at El Paso, where he had a good year. Hit 308 to be exact. And now the Giants taking a look at him as a possible utility man. We're chatting with Padre bench coach Mark McGwire, who has so many incredible memories in this great game of baseball. And obviously you're going to be a lifer.
I hope so. It's in my blood.
Manage someday? I mean, I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I've never ruled it out, but you know, it's step by step, and I just love the game. You know, I was out of the game for close to 10 years before I got back, and Tony, you know, got me back in as a hitting coach in 2010, and now here I am, basically in my 7th year as a coach. So. Very excited. I love teaching. I love giving back the things I've learned through all my coaches and what I've learned as a player, and especially the mental side of this game. You know, some of these young kids today think that this game's physical, but this game is all mental. Yes, you're in the big leagues, or you have the ability to play in the big leagues because of your ability, but once you get here, you have to understand this game is in between the ears.
Well, there's so many parts of the game that are built for failure.
Yep.
And you know, emotionally and mentally to be able to attack that. And even the grizzled veteran has trouble.
Yeah, that's why it's all baby steps. And you know, when I got into coaching, that's the biggest thing. Is just it's all about throwing that bone out there and just sort of having the guys chomp at it a little bit and piece by piece and have them think about it over years. Nothing's ever overnight, doesn't happen overnight, and nothing's ever easy in this ball game. Like you talked about, this game is built on failure. But it's the great ones and the ones that last the longest is they bust through failure. They know how to bust through failure. How do you turn an 0 for 4 to keep an 0 for 4 instead of an 0 for 21 or something? Understanding that offensively, when you're making outs, how are you making outs? The majority of your outs that you make are on pitches you can't handle. So the more passive you are, and the more aggressive you are, the more the game's going to go away from you. The more simple you make it, the more the game's going to come back to you.
Mark, I've got a question regarding Matt Kemp. Now, you had some time with him as a hitting coach in Los Angeles. Now you both are together in San Diego. Talk about your relationship with Matt and how that relationship works.
Yeah, well, it took time. You know, Matt's a great athlete, and when I got there, you know, he was coming off some injuries. He had a shoulder injury, then he had an ankle injury, he had a hamstring injury. But it was the second half of 14 that he really waved the white flag, and he said, "Okay, Mark, what do we need to do?" Along with John Valentin, my assistant hitting coach, and he had a fabulous second half of the season. I think he was probably one of the hottest hitters in the game of baseball at that time. And actually, we had some talk today in batting practice about things to get back to what we were doing in 14. Turn it.
There's one, back to first, and a double play.
That's beautiful.
Around the horn, 5-4-3 after a couple of walks to Brown and Pena. That old double play ball. Pitcher's best friend, and that'll bring up Jake Peavy.
Yeah, so, you know, Matt's just, it's, you know, spring training's a thing where you just try to find the feeling. And, you know, I've been gone for a while, and the first couple of days I saw a few things that Matt was doing. And he fought off that pitch and got a nice little hit. So, but he's feeling it now. He had a good talk today. So I expect some good things coming in the near future.
We'll let you go here. You got to go back to work. But I can't help but reflect upon, as you're rooting for your Trojans in the NCAA tournament, back when he was playing for Rod Dado.
Oh, yeah.
Randy Johnson and Mark McGwire were the pitchers. How about that for a 1-2 combo?
That is true. That is very, very true.
And your catcher was?
Jack Del Rio.
Del Rio, the great NFL player.
Yeah.
How about that for a combination?
What was your repertoire, Mark, on the mound as a Trojan?
Fastball, changeup.
Nice. No breaking ball?
Well, you know, it's funny. I went to SC to learn the breaking stuff from Marcel Latchman. The first day of my freshman year, Marcel Latchman left and said, "Hey, I'm going to go run the minor league system for at the end of the California Angels." So I didn't get a chance to work with him, but you know, I turned into a hitter, and I turned into a hitter because of the old San Diego State coach Jim Deeks.
Well, Mark, thank you. Fight on.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Mark.
I see a really good swing. I see a young kid that doesn't slow his hands up hitting the baseball, and that's huge. What I mean by that is when you watch young kids today, when usually they get an off-speed pitch, they tend to slow their hands and try to hit the baseball. When he decides to swing, he decides to swing. He doesn't slow him down. And yesterday we saw it when he got a hanging breaking ball. He drove right through and drove it out of the ballpark. Looks like he doesn't. Well, he definitely doesn't cheat himself whatsoever when he decides to swing, and that's huge for a young kid today. I hope he embraces what's happening to him. I hope he enjoys it. He's got a great support system over there with the Rockies, and Walt Weiss being a Rookie of the Year. And obviously Trevor Story is going to be one of those guys that people are going to talk about being Rookie of the Year. And so he's got a great support system as far as his lineup too. So I wish him best of luck, and we'll try to shut him down the next couple days we face him.
Well, Matt Kemp and bench coach Mark McGwire have a relationship that dates back to when they were both in the Dodgers organization, and he works with all of the guys in the cages before the games. And yesterday, he saw something in Matt Kemp. Here's what he had to say about Matt's offensive explosion.
I think everybody's different. That's the thing. You just pick everybody's brain. You get to know everybody as a hitter, and certain words mean certain things for different people. So with him yesterday, it was just pretty much just get in your rear end. Get in your rear end, use it. And God gave you a strong lower half, and when you're not using it, he meant to give you a strong lower half to hit bombs. So don't do it.
Well, for Mark McGwire, it is obviously all about that base, and he tells me we are just seeing the beginning of what Matt Kemp can do. I had a chance to catch up with bench coach Mark McGwire earlier today. He's a guy that knows something about offense, and we chatted about whether or not this team is pushing a little bit given the offensive struggles. Take a listen.
It's all about being relaxed. I mean, it's, everybody goes through this. If we wouldn't be talking about this if we were in the middle of the season. It's just 2 games. I know everybody wants to get off to a good start. In a matter of 4 or 5 days, we've been talking about how great of hitters we have. So that's the way the game of baseball is. You just got to keep even keeled the whole way.
I asked McGwire to get out his crystal ball and predict for me which Padre player was going to score that first run. He said Jabari Blash, expecting big things out of the rookie outfielder in his major league debut tonight. Congratulations, Jabari Blash.
Yeah, it's nice to really come over and say hi to the guys, and especially I got my boys with me tonight, and they're here saying they spent a lot of time with them last few years, so it was really cool.
Just seeing all the guys, even the people that work here, the people that nobody see behind the scenes, the people that come in and clean up the clubhouses, and it's always exciting to see them. I've been here so long, and they've been here for so long. It's always good to see those people.
One thing I noticed was the utmost respect and camaraderie of the Dodgers staff and players. All the guys coming over to pay their respects and say hi to both gentlemen on the Padres side. Really nice to see. Shows that those friendships run deep.
He's held their offense together. He really has not had a really cold streak yet this year. But this absolute stud. First time I ever met him, I asked him who taught him to hit. And he said his father. And I said, will you call your dad and tell your dad that he did one hell of a job? Because, with him and his brother being in the big leagues and another brother in the minor leagues, his dad did a wonderful job. Great kids, and we're just seeing a little glimpse of how great he's going to be in baseball.
Well, Mark McGwire had a chance to check out Corey Seager during Dodgers spring training in the 2015 season, and then again in September last year when he was called up. And I asked him what sort of improvements Seager made during that time, and he said absolutely nothing. Back in spring training last season, he told his AAA manager, he said, don't change a thing. His approach at the plate, his swing, he said, don't even mess with it. He said it was almost genetic, just instinctual. And by the way, guys, today marks his major league debut.
And right on cue, Julie, another hit for Seager. He's 2 for 2.
His anniversary.
Anniversary of being called up, Seager, and they couldn't keep that kid down on the farm.
You know what? It's really anybody. It's who hits the fairways. The rough, I've heard, is very, very deep. I like a Pennsylvania guy named Jim Furyk. He's 80-1 odds, but he finished second there in 07. Justin Rose. I think he's destined to win a major. But Mr. Jordan Spieth is hot. Phil Mickelson's also hot right now, too. So you got to be long. You got to have soft hands. You got to be able to get out of the rough. But it's always the most exciting one to watch.
Mark, you've accomplished so much in your life. Let's talk about some of those things, but let's do so with a little twist.
Okay.
I want to see if you remember what happened on May 22nd, 1999.
May 22nd. Home run?
Yes. That's an easy one, right? Well, this particular one, you hit it out of the park.
I was just going to say, hey, I got a great story about that. So when I became a hitting coach for the Dodgers, they said, we have a special guest coming on the field that wants to meet you. And I said, sure, okay. So at the time, it was this little girl that caught the ball. She was walking into the stadium with her parents. I remember when Stargell hit it out of the stadium. And so those things go through your mind. So that was when it did go out of the stadium, that was like a childhood memory of mine.
That's what you were thinking about.
Yeah, and I swear to God, yeah, it's true.
October 7th, 2001.
October 7th, 2000. My last game?
Correct.
My last game. And I hit a home run.
Did you? Another one? Imagine that.
No, it was my last official at bat in a Major League ball game was a home run against Rocky Coppinger.
June 1st, 2010.
My triplets.
Yes! Triplet girls at that.
Yes.
Hey, what went through your mind when you found out your wife was having triplets?
Well, you know that cartoon that we all grew up and the mouth just drops all the way down to the floor? They're all M's. I don't know why I did that. You know what I mean? It's like
I wonder.
My older son is Matt. Then I have Max and Mason, Marlo, Monet, and Monroe. And to this day, I still screw it all up.